Hello, welcome to the Student Midwife Podcast with your host, Kimberly Henderson. It's been a while since I posted. It's been kind of a wild summer for me. I don't know about you guys, but I learned a lot, and the lesson I keep learning over and over again, well, there's two main lessons I think I've learned this summer. Number one is that midwives unfortunately have become just as competitive as their nursing sisters. Unfortunately, because we are in a patriarchal society and in a world where power and money are, equated, lined up together. So it's a very competitive field, unfortunately, and I'm not a competitive person by nature, and I've always lived by an ethos of cooperation, not competition. So I get forced out of clinical situations where any kind of competitiveness is required of me. So that's the first thing I've learned. Number two, I've learned I have a lot of self-work still that I need to do. I recognize that. I know that is there. I know that the way I was raised and the cult-like environment, the evangelical church I was raised in, really discouraged women from focusing on careers and wanted us to just get married and become mothers and find fulfillment in that, which is great. I don't obviously have any problem with people becoming mothers and making that a main focus of their life, if that is indeed what they desire. I wouldn't be a midwife because I like working with traditional mothers. I love working with groups like the Amish, and that wouldn't mesh well with me if I didn't believe some women are really called to do that. But I feel called to a life beyond that. So I am having this big internal struggle because part of me still believes a lot of that doctrine and a lot of that rhetoric, that I am meant to just be a mother. Now that I'm married and I have 4 kids, I should just be focusing solely on that life and being a good homemaker and just being involved in all the after school activities and all the kids things and just making that my entire identity and life. So I think I've done some self-sabotaging behaviors when I've had apprenticeships because I am really wrestling with that demon. And it is a demon. The moral of that story is don't raise your kids in a cult. Religion's fine. I'm talking about cults, brainwashing scenarios. So I was brainwashed a bit as a child, and I'm still trying to let go of that. And it's really hindering my growth. So I am focusing on myself right now, and I have hired an additional therapist to help me, hopefully, with this big journey of trying to detach from all the negative patterns that are in my brain so that I can move forward with my growth and hopefully my career someday. I hope I live to be 120 because I'm creeping up there in age and I still haven't even started what I want to be my career. So the other lesson I learned this summer is I've learned more again about racism. I love that I'm learning from Black students that are in the program with me just about how deeply racism is integrated into every part of our world and our society. I was housed at the clinical site that I was at briefly with a Black student in rural Wisconsin, and it's not an exaggeration to say that she didn't even want to go places without me, without other people with her, because she perceived it as sort of a threat. That's not an exaggeration at all. And I get that because white people have made it abundantly clear that we do not like Black people in our space. So that is something I'm still chewing on and learning about. I don't know what it's like to be Black in this world, and it deeply bothers me that is the world that we have, where we make it scary for people of different backgrounds, religions, colors, you name it, to even exist in the world. I mean, it's not just Black folks. My trans folk friend the other day was talking about how even at our liberal Unitarian church, somebody came up to them and was like dead naming them, asking them all kinds of invasive and disturbing questions about their chosen gender and identity and things. So it can happen even in spaces that are supposed to be very safe. This person was made to feel not safe. And a Black friend of mine was recently attacked at a local farmer's market, like physically attacked, after the person that attacked them yelled a bunch of racist stuff at them. So that's a big lesson I keep learning. And this summer has been a big one for that. Maybe added some more gray hairs to my head. I feel, frankly, kind of ashamed of being a white person in this world right now, the way things are. And probably should be ashamed. My ancestors did all that stuff. They set all that up. They made all that. They created a system that perpetuates that. And it's in my brain. It's very much in my brain. And I'm working on that as well, because I don't want that in my brain. I mean, I have direct ancestors. I'm directly descended from people that were pioneers, that were missionaries, and that had first contact with some of the indigenous people in this country, and subsequently spread diseases that wiped those people out. So I feel very guilty for that aspect of my life, who I am, my identity. I didn't own, my ancestors, as far as I know, didn't own slaves or anything like that. Although you could argue that those missionary ancestors, they did steal some indigenous children and try to indoctrinate them. They had maybe what could be loosely called one of the first boarding schools in this country. So there's that too. And I'm going to write a book about it one of these days, because it really weighs heavily on me, and I feel the need to talk about that in my life. Make some retribution for, I don't know if there is not really a way you can make retribution for that sort of stuff, but at least talk about it and make awareness around it. So, sorry, my boobs were distracting myself while making this video, so I had to change the angle a little bit. But yeah, it's a lot of heavy stuff. This summer has been a summer of heavy stuff, hasn't it? Like, all the news reports about that house in Ohio where the 16 children were found, like, all of that is also bringing up additional baggage that I've carried for a long time. My family definitely chose to isolate at different times in our lives. It's a thing. It's a thing that people that have dogma that they're trying to teach their children about tend to self-isolate. So I don't know what was going on with that house of horrors. Obviously, I wasn't there. I haven't participated in that. I have no idea. But it's clear that there was some kind of level of brainwashing happening. So yeah, I keep following those news stories, but there's like literally nothing to really follow at this point. They keep saying over and over again the exact same things. It's just been a summer of like, just a lot of weird stuff, and my own weird baggage is definitely coming to light. So anyway, I'm not going to recommend a book this week. I'm going to recommend a podcast. I came across this lovely podcast by, I think her name is Julia Ellis, and she puts out this podcast called Regenerative Motherhood. I highly recommend it. It is just lovely. It is about how the act of being pregnant and the act of mothering and parenting is a transformative experience, and it can be a very beautiful, healthy, humbling, and just a really mind-shifting experience. It can be a mind-opening experience. and a growing and a healing experience. She talks a lot about how, as hard as parenting and mothering is, it can be a truly very healing experience. And I found it to be a very healing experience. So I would recommend you check out the podcast Regenerative Motherhood. Highly, highly recommend it. I'm even so into it, I'm thinking about taking her course someday in the future if I ever have money again. I don't know if I ever will. Midwifery school's drained me of everything, but it's part of it, I guess. I know I have been in school for decades, so it's partly my fault. I could be working. But how do you work when you are supposed to be in an apprenticeship and potentially on call 24/7? Like, I don't know how you're supposed to work with that. Like, you have to be available whenever, however, all times of day and night to your preceptors or preceptor, whatever. So yeah, I'm not making any money. I'm not working and still trying to pay for college. So, and I can't get any more financial aid. I'm past the point where they will let me have any more financial aid, which is fair. I've used a lot of financial aid. I have incredible debt at this point in my life. So I'm paying out of pocket for this, and it feels incredibly draining to our family. For our time, our resources, our money, our everything. It's incredibly draining to our family. But I still hope to make it through despite the setbacks and everything. I think I'm going to be a really good midwife. I was reading a post this morning that made me really kind of think about the paradox of cooperation versus competition. And this post was about, this midwife was like, I work with Amish communities, blah, blah, blah. A lot of times they don't hire me. That's fine. They will bring their mother-in-law or their grandmother or whoever in to help with the baby, or they'll just deliver on their own. Fine. I don't reserve judgment. Like, I don't need all their business anyway. But she teaches a class to the Amish about safety and like safe childbirth and stuff, and just things to do if the baby is having a slow time to come around or whatever, and other things. I don't even know what all is in her class, but it made me realize that to me this midwife is a true hero, because she could be looking at them and being like, well, they're not hiring me, why would I want to, but she's really all about saving baby lives. And that's what she said. She said, like, regardless of who they're gonna trust at their birth, I want to make sure baby lives are saved. And so I thought about that, and I thought about how I've known lots of midwives, well, not lots, I've known a few midwives that work with the Amish, and a lot of times it's kind of a point of contention for them. Like, maybe the Amish don't pay them or don't pay them well, or they're hiring unskilled people to be at their birth instead of the skilled midwives, and they feel kind of a little bit hurt or jealous if people in the community are not hiring them. So that is a feeling of scarcity and competition. And on the other hand, a midwife that respects cooperation is like that midwife. She's teaching the grandmothers, whoever's coming to her classes, how to safely deliver babies at home, maybe without her. Maybe it will teach them that they actually need her. They'll think of scenarios that they hadn't thought of before, that it would be better to have, medical equipment and a trained midwife at, but they also might just take that information and save lives. And to me, I'd rather be the second type of midwife. That's what I'm really trying to go for. Like, I'm trying to get into this business to save lives, because I had a midwife that I firmly believe saved my life, especially with my first pregnancy, when she noticed those signs of preeclampsia, which were not, I didn't have the very stereotypical preeclampsia signs and symptoms. They were missed by my regular doctor. And then my midwife saw me, I think 17 hours later or whatever, and she said, holy shit, dude, Like, this is not good. You're going downhill fast. Like, get to the hospital immediately. I really feel like that midwife saved my life and my baby's life. So I've been thinking about midwifery my whole life, but after I had that child and that midwife saved my life, I'm here for life saving. I'm here to cooperate with communities. I want to be an essential part of communities. I'm not here about, I'll probably never be about competition. I'm never going to be trying to compete for territory with other midwives. I hope to never be jealous of other people that are attending births in my area that may not even be midwives. I hope to cooperate and help in any way I can to shape our dying healthcare system into something better than it was, into a more cooperative system that cares more about human lives and baby lives than about money and grabbing resources, which seems to be what the dying model is all about, which is, you know, what our whole system in general is all about. So it's not a surprise to anyone that our healthcare system also falls into that disgusting chain of events. I mean, it's why maternity care centers all over the country are being shut down. They're like, well, they don't make enough money. It's why hospitals are being shut down right and left. It's why there's maternity deserts everywhere, because it's become about profit. And I don't want my business to follow that model, is what I'm saying. Which may mean I live in poverty forever. And I'm kind of okay with that. I'm really used to it. That's for sure. I know how to get by without money. So I'm kind of okay with that. And call me crazy if you want. Like, some people are like, well, at this point in my life, I just want a slice of the pie. I want to stack a little bologna away, tuck a little bologna away for the hungry days or whatever. Yeah, I get that. I do. I would love to be financially lucrative as well. I would love to have things like vacations, healthcare, dental care, etc. You know, I get that. I do. But I also want a system that is based more on cooperation and less on competition. I am tired of the mean girl cliques, just midwives talking nasty about each other sometimes because they're like, well, she's encroaching in on my territory. No, she's not. She's lightening the late load on your plate. She is an extra set of hands when you need one. She is a colleague. She has skills maybe you don't have, or she sees things that the community needs that maybe you can't see. She can offer things to the community that you don't offer, you know? Like, there are so many things midwives can do that's beyond just rushing in and catching babies, you know? One of my favorite teachers at the school I'm going to says all the time that we should be doing things like C-section care afterwards for mamas that have in our communities that have had C-sections. Why can't we do that? Of course we can. Like, lactation support for mamas. Like, there's a lot of things we can be doing. It doesn't need to be competitive, and indeed, we will save more lives if we work together as a team. So that's the model I'm trying to put that in my brain and in my heart so that when I practice, which will happen eventually, I am very convinced that I'm here for this purpose. That when that happens, I have that strongly in my brain and my heart, so I never act that way towards colleagues, towards people that are becoming midwives, or even people that are catching babies without being midwives. Like, I hope to work with them too. Like, if I have knowledge that can be given, I want to give that to people. And that's what this midwife was saying. She was like, it's about saving babies for me. It's about saving babies. I do not care that these people are not hiring me as their midwife. It is about saving babies. I thought that was a tremendous statement to make and a beautiful sentiment. And not just the sentiment, like, that's human lives, you know? We don't want Amish babies to die any more than we want anyone else to die. We don't want any of the babies to die. I don't. As a person who has walked close to death, I feel like more than once in my life, I don't want babies to die. So, and I see a lot of midwives that are doing the right thing for the right reasons. I'm not trying to paint a picture that a lot of midwives are out there being evil or something. And I think you can have both too. I think we can, I know I'm greedy at times, I think it's easy as a human in this patriarchal world to feel the stress and the pressure of trying to save lives and also make a little money, have the baloney bundles to tuck away for the hungry days, like that makes sense to me. This is not a job that comes with, especially if you're working independently, it's not a job that comes with any benefits. It doesn't come with any health insurance. You got to pay for all that stuff out of your pocket. It doesn't come with any much securities. It doesn't come with, there's no union. There's nobody backing midwives up. We are looked down upon. We are considered lesser than in many cases. Yeah, ironically, we are considered the anti-healthcare providers. It's kind of a weird place to be in this, especially in this time in history and place. It's a weird place to be in. So even while the WHO is like saying expand midwifery, more midwives for every area, this is how we're going to create more life and health and vibrancy. At the same time, in the United States, many states are making it almost impossible to become a midwife. If not through their laws, then through the, you got to get medical insurance. That's very expensive. The training, the rules about who can become a legal midwife and who can't, and what kind of training you need, etc., etc. It gets really challenging. And so they're not making it easy, even while, I was reading an article just now in the Lancet about why the WHO is calling for a million more midwives. The Lancet did a big research project about how it's going to save lives, how it's going to save baby lives, etc. So, and they said, yeah, that is actually what we need. This is really what we need. This is a group of doctors in a doctor journal calling for 1 million more midwives in the world. This is what we need. So, but what kind of midwives do we want to be? I want to be one that works in cooperation, not competition. I'm hoping that's the person I can be. So, but yeah, it is tricky. It's so tricky. We are all under this system that is really hard on us. After going through school, that is really hard on us. Having family members maybe divorce us or break up with us, which is really hard on us because they don't understand why we would put ourselves through. They see the stress and they feel the stress themselves, like years of unpaid labor and childcare without end because the mom is gone all the time, and all of that is incredibly hard on our spouses and our partners. So yeah, we want a little compensation at the end of the day after all of that. I understand that, and there's nothing wrong with wanting some compensation. But there's got to be a way to balance needing and wanting compensation with being a cooperative midwife instead of a competitive midwife. And that's what I'm trying to figure out while I'm learning about all these other things, all these other layers of oppression that come along with just being a colonizer, having a colonizer mindset, for lack of a better term. Yeah, I know what my ancestors did. I am not a stranger to the horrors that followed them in their path, and I'm going to write a book about it eventually. But so I'm not a stranger to the ways that having that in your brain can really skew your vision and make you a competitive asshole, a colonizer, again, in another way. You know what I mean? So I really do think the whole competition thing is a colonizer mindset. You know, it comes from that whole, like, we own the earth, we will take what we want. And cooperation comes from an indigenous mindset. So my radical viewpoint is that we need to take land back in midwifery, if that makes sense. And in our own minds, you know, my radical viewpoint is that we need to fight all those areas of oppression, including the colonizer idea that we have to be competitive with each other. That is an area of oppression that I would like to speak out against, and that I would like to fight. So, yeah, that's it. I'm just out here behind my public library. Shout out to the public library. I love my local public library. It is actually really beautiful out here. We're kind of situated in some woods. You probably hear some of the bugs and insects, the cicadas right now, chirping in the background. So it's a really beautiful area. I got a little time and space to be alone without my kids, and I said, hallelujah, I will take it. So here I am. And yeah, just thinking a lot about cooperation versus competition, and how do we go about getting rid of those colonial mindsets in our minds, in our lives, in our hearts. I got it strong, man. I'm from a family that we're competitive people. So I got it real strong, and I'm trying to figure out what I do about that. So blessings to all of you. I'm glad you're listening. If you are listening, please listen. Please share it with other people. Follow my channel. I am a midwife on a mission is my channel. Just trying to think outside the box about competition and ways we can make midwifery accessible, regenerative, while being informed and modern and medicalized, but also not fighting with those midwives that are not, or even birth attendants, whatever they call themselves, birth keepers. How do we create a safe environment for everyone to practice and understand that they play different roles in our community and we are not in competition with each other? I don't know. It's all stuff I'm thinking about. You guys can comment. Please comment. I would love it if you commented. I want to hear that people are out there listening to me. I don't know if anyone is, but... And also I have a GoFundMe right now too, if you want to contribute to my college funds. So yeah, I might put a link to that in the bottom of this. I don't know. Because I need money. It's hard. This summer has strapped me for cash. I was out in Wisconsin briefly doing preceptor stuff. All the travel, and like, if you have to travel for your preceptorships, it gets really expensive real fast. So it's not just paying for the college, it's paying for the books, the tools, and then skills classes, and then on top of that, traveling to preceptors, housing there, etc., etc. The list is endless, you know. So the wear and tear on your vehicle, all that stuff. But you're not getting paid. You're doing all this unpaid labor. So it's really almost impossible. I don't know. I'm gonna do it though, somehow. I'm stubborn. I'm very, very stubborn. That's a good trait that I have. I have a lot of like negative shit I'm working on, but one of my good traits is I never give up. I can be beaten down to almost nothing and I will come back to haunt you. No, not to haunt you. Have a good day. It is a beautiful summer day here in southern Indiana, and I'm gonna go home now and play with my kids a bit because, you know, I'm usually away doing midwife stuff, so I'm gonna spend some time with my kids. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye.